Hey guys, and welcome to an old school classic matchup. I'm going to be in charge of the Lizardmen up against Morgulum Elgi Roaston. Awesome name there. Actually, Malverde, I believe. Is going to be taking the forces of the Norscans here on the swampy plains. And being swampy plains certainly will give me a tiny advantage for my mighty skinks, aquatic dwelling beings. But anyway, let's get into the build. So this is a build I used absolutely months and months and months ago, just a long time ago, slightly altered though, with a few new tricks up its sleeve. In the main battle line, as well as dotted slightly round the flank, we have the mighty Saurus warriors with shields, really stable front line, fantastic value for money, can tear apart marauders and do decent up against berserkers and other enemy infantry. In the centre pocket we have the cohort of Sotek as well, mainly going to be used here for their unbreakability, as these guys will hold the line for absolutely forever, of course, being unbreakable, and can do pretty decent damage as well with their mighty great axes. Apart from that, on the flanks, we do have a couple of skink cohorts with javelins, and these guys, little throwing javelins, can do pretty good work up against the Norscans, who tend to be lightly armoured, and obviously coming in with that poison as well can certainly help swing key engagements. In the centre pocket of our build, where a lot of the damage is going to be dealt, we do have a mighty Bastiladon with a solar engine. Fantastic up against the Norscans, good at targeting down the enemy skinwolves, frog, anything that comes in with regeneration, but can also put pressure on other units as well. And it comes in with a really useful ability that I don't think many people actually know about, which is a debuff. When it hits something, it blinds it only for 10 seconds, but it's a pretty hefty blind, with a minus 24 to melee attack and melee defense, and minus 30 accuracy can certainly make a massive difference. Also in this pocket we have my ever favourite Umbral Tide, regiment of renowned salamander hunting packs who of course have Stalk, and double Cold One Spear Riders in the back line to protect them. These guys are anti-large and can go toe-to-toe with a lot of the big old Norscan troops and monstrous scary units. For our leadership core, we do of course have the mighty Krokgar on Grimlock here, looking as fearsome as ever, actually rocking all his buffs here, coming with the Sacred Spawning, Deadly Onslaught, Swiftness of Itzel, and as always, the mighty Hand of the Gods for huge burst damage, can do massive damage to Frog, even Wolfric, but also key targets and monsters. We have some skink, basic skink cohorts as well dotted around, but to round out the build, we have a skink priest of beasts, coming with Flock of Doom, the Curse, and Manticore Summon. Now for my opponent's build, I'm actually a big fan of this build. It's pretty crazy actually. It's got so many fast moving units. We have double Feral Manticore up in the skies with golden chevrons, so hefty value has been placed into them, but they should be able to use their mobility to get onto key targets where possible. We also have the Beasts of Tashnar as well. Anti-large doggos can certainly be a bit of a pain, getting the back line shut down Bastiladons and kind of clear up skinks as well. And to help clear up skinks, we have even more warhounds dotted around. I think we actually have 3 units. Some are lurking in the trees here. For the main battle line, we do have the cheap and cheerful Marauders just dotted along, and they can do a certainly decent job. They go toe-to-toe with Saurus Warriors for a while, although they will lose that engagement, but they tear through skinks with deadly efficiency, and they're here to allow the rest of the build as well to kind of pack a punch and deal some more damage. So we do have some spearmen dotted around, but in the back lines we have double silver chevron marauder hunters, and it looks like we actually have that on both units. So my opponent going a little bit smaller of a build to allow some extra chevrons on key targets. We have double marauder berserkers as well to help chew through infantry, and then of course we have a shaman sorcerer of metal, a must pick in this matchup, and that is simply because of the Plague of Rust, minus 30 armor. And upgraded is minus 60, will allow those javelins to help deal with all the big dinosaur threats, as well as Temple Guard Doom boxes. You just don't engage them, you pop a Overcast Plague of Rust on them, and you javelin them to death, and allow the Marauders as well to kind of start working on the lower armoured troops. We have the mighty Frog, a risky pick in my personal opinion, although I do bring him this matchup as well a lot of the time, and he's very good at taking down the large dinosaurs. His one problem, of course, is that he has that weakness to fire, and Lizardmen bring a ton of fire potential to the battlefield. He's coming with Wintertooth Crown, as well as Fight or Die and Foe Seeker. So overall, a really solid build, and should be a fun matchup. So without further ado, let's get this battle underway. Umbral Tide have spotted one of the Feral Manticores lurking from the trees, so with the help of the skink cohort, it's going to do some pretty decent damage, but again, my opponent here is a top quality player and is going to be darting back and forth, dodging the worst of the Umbral Tide shots. So they've taken quite a few javelins to the face. They're a lot harder to judge and kind of dodge than the arcing fireballs of the Umbral Tide. Our Feral Manticore as well is going to be dodging, bobbing, and weaving between a ton of shots, actually taking no damage. So it looks like the Umbral Tide almost ran out of range there, those fireballs disappearing in the sky. Warhounds are darting in now, trying to get a little bit of a shock damage perhaps on the Saurus Warriors. No, it looks like he's going for an overload on this unit of Skink cohorts here, trying to break this pocket, which will then allow more Warhounds to pour in into kind of the squishier elements of my build. We do have the Cold One Spear Riders here coming in with a counter charge, as well as supporting fire from the Umbral Tide, and a fat curse does indeed come down. All of a sudden, dropping all these Warhound stats to pretty abysmal. 10 melee attack is really not going to do too much for them there. Golden Hounds have been summoned as the Norscan Warhounds try to hop on top of the Umbral Tide, but the second unit of Cold One Spear Riders is here to support. And you can see we've broken off most of the Hound units here, although a lot of them will be returning to the field, no doubt. The front lines have engaged here as mighty Saurus battle hard against the Viking-esque Marauders in the front line, but Spearmen are pouring through, and Hunters as well starting to get to key targets to try and do damage to the Bastiladon. And as you can see, the old classic Plague of Rust tactic, minus 60 armor on this Bastiladon, and although Bastiladon is having his way of Frog here, doing some pretty massive damage in return, but these Javelins are going to be doing some nasty stuff to this Bastiladon for sure. Umbral Tide, though, do unleash volley after volley as the Hand of the Gods comes in from Krokgar, absolutely annihilating Frog, and the only reason he's still standing is the Wintertooth Crown making him unbreakable. But in comes Krokgar. He doesn't mind if you're unbreakable. He's more than happy to attempt to take your skull. And it looks like Frog is gaining pretty danger territory here. If he can retreat, he of course does have regeneration. Umbral Tide do finish off some Norscan Warhounds in glorious combat, as the other Manticore is pinned in here by double Cold One Riders. We do summon our own Feral Manticore here to put pressure on the Marauder Javelins, and then comes, I'm assuming, an overcast version of the Golden Doggos here, as they absolutely tear apart these Cold One Spear Riders, doing massive damage. There's a little bit of friendly fire as well coming in from the Umbral Tide, but look at that HP damage done onto these guys from those dogs. And now as well, looks like the Umbral Tide not too inaccurate actually there, doing some massive damage to that Manticore. We do decide to pop down a curse to try and beat back both of these bad boys. In the front line, Saurus Warriors holding for an absolute age, slowly getting overrun by Berserkers, but doing a really good job. And you can see the line is kind of held directly down here from the very start, allowing me to clear up the back line pressure and give myself the mobility advantage. We have Saurus Warriors as well. Looks like they were chasing off some dogs. I'm going to be wrapping around to this main engagement, and Krokgar has returned, having shattered Frog down to just 200 health there. He is going to be regenerating, obviously. Cold One Spear Riders, just mirroring the Beast of Tashnar at the moment. Yes, they're anti-large, but they simply do not have the numbers left anymore to deal with the mighty Cold Ones. And now we're going to be focusing down at these Javelins. We're going to be blinding them with the Bastiladon effect to lower their accuracy to help Krokgar survive the onslaught. And the Umbral Tide as well coming with that burst damage. Going to be doing some pretty decent work driving back the Hunters. In the front line, it looks like our Manticore has disappeared. Cohort of Sotek, however, are holding the line pretty well, of course, against the Berserkers. And you see Skink Cohort Javelins as well doing some pretty decent job onto the Hunters themselves. As my front line does eventually start to cave in here, you see the backline troops are slowly being caught up by Marauders now, but it may be a little bit too little too late as balance power goes heavily in my favour, as this poor Shaman Sorcerer of Metal is being pretty heavy metal here, kind of driving through the fire and the flames, but there's a ton of units coming after his booty, and a big Hand of the Gods clips the back wheels there, sends the Shaman Sorcerer running for the hills with 12 health. He's certainly not going to be having the best of days, and that's going to be a Pyrrhic victory to the forces of the Lizardmen there. So very well played to Morgulum Elgi Roaster there. Absolutely loving the name, although it does kind of hurt my heart as well, seeing those Elgi being roasted. But yeah, massive shout out to him. Really good game overall, and quite an interesting build. Hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, feel free to subscribe for more Total War Warhammer content, and give the video a big old thumbs up, and feel free to comment and all that good stuff to let me know that you have indeed enjoyed it. Anyway, really fun build all round. Coming in, as I said before, quite interesting to commit all the chevrons to the Manticores and the Marauders. It did certainly make the Manticores quite squishy, though. Not squishy, quite sticky, as they weren't really interested in running away so much as Manticores usually are, tanking a lot of shots and being a pest in my back lines, as well as the doggos here, what they call Norscan Warhounds, there you go. the Norscan Warhounds as well, but the front line couldn't quite be hammered home quick enough. Berserkers did a decent job stacking on top of their Marauders and slowly grinding out the front line, but the humble Saurus Warrior holding the line for such a long time, getting pretty decent kills across the board as well, allowed the rest of my build to really do some decent damage. That central core of Umbral Tide and Bastiladon isn't too much to protect, it's simply 2 units, but the opponent has to shut them down, otherwise they're going to deal, huge amounts of damage across the board. So they have to, chuck in the Manticores, chuck in the Hounds and the like, and that's when the Cold One Spear Riders really come into play. They're excellent at dealing with the fast, mobile forces that the Norscans can indeed bring, especially supported by the Umbral Tide in case there's any pesky Skin Wolves. And of course, the Hand of the Gods does indeed slap pretty hard, doing massive damage to Frog, who as soon as he pushed through the front line, just got annihilated, hit by the Solar Engine, hit by the Umbral Tide, hit by the Hand of the Gods. He was certainly doomed for, and at the very end as well, we got a little shot into the Shaman Sorcerer just to force him off the field. Alright guys, hope you did enjoy. If you want to send in replays to the channel for the chance to have them cast, or get involved in King of the Hills and tournaments and the like that I do indeed host, feel free to join my Discord. There is a link in the description just down below, as well as links to how other ways you can support the channel, including kind of Patreon and donations, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so all cool stuff. Anyway guys, until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.